The U.S. Army just dropped bombshell NASA footage showing the mysterious 3I Atlas object behaving like nothing we've ever seen before. This isn't your typical space rock. It's pulsing with green energy, making impossible course corrections, and appears to be steering itself directly toward Mars with clockwork precision. Military sources are staying quiet, but the evidence is undeniable. Is this our first encounter with alien technology?
The head of NASA confirms 3I Atlas is not natural, and the alien object now moving closer to Earth.
Are there other planets elsewhere that there is life? Now, I know what you've seen, and there have been some 300 sightings since then. I've talked to those pilots, and they know they saw something, and their radars locked onto it. And then all of a sudden it was here on the surface, and then it's there. And they don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is. Who am I to say that planet Earth is the only location of a life form that is civilized and organized like ours?
NASA has just issued an urgent warning. The interstellar object known as 3I Atlas is doing something that defies every law of physics. Its structure, geometric, its light, artificial, and its trajectory, now shifting directly toward Earth. Scientists are calling it the most disturbing discovery since Oumuamua, because this time, what's coming isn't just passing by, it's changing space itself. When the first reports about 3I Atlas reached NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, no one expected anything extraordinary. On paper, it was classified as another interstellar comet, an icy traveler passing through our solar system, much like Oumuamua or 2I Borisov before it. But within weeks, it became clear that this was different, very different. Initial tracking from the Pan-STARRS Observatory showed a stable, predictable path, a hyperbolic orbit consistent with a visitor from beyond our star system. But as more telescopes locked onto it, that stability began to fracture. Its light curve fluctuated in patterns that made no sense. The object wasn't tumbling randomly like a rock. It was rotating in perfect synchronization, as if under control. Then came the spectral readings. The European Southern Observatory released data showing unusually high levels of nickel and carbon dioxide, but almost no water vapor, an impossible composition for any natural comet. Normally, when sunlight heats up an icy nucleus, the sublimation of water drives jets of gas outward, creating chaotic movement. Yet 3I Atlas wasn't chaotic at all. Its trajectory remained unnervingly smooth, almost guided. When the James Webb Space Telescope captured its first infrared images, the mystery deepened. Hidden within the coma, the hazy halos surrounding the core were faint but distinct linear formations, parallel streaks of heat emission that crossed in perfect 90-degree angles. In natural astrophysics, that kind of precision doesn't exist. Rocks fracture randomly, gas expands chaotically. Nature doesn't build with geometry. At first, NASA dismissed the lines as a sensor anomaly. But then, the same patterns appeared in data from Hubble, and later from Chile's Very Large Telescope. 3 independent instruments observing at different wavelengths, all confirming the same geometric shapes hidden in the tail of an interstellar object. That's when whispers began to spread through the scientific community. Could 3I Atlas be something constructed? A vessel, perhaps, or a fragment of one? Most researchers refused to say it out loud, but privately, many were thinking the same thing. Soon after, another anomaly appeared. The object's trajectory shifted, not by much, just 0.19 degrees, but enough to break every orbital model. No known natural process could account for it. It was as if an invisible engine had fired, pushing it ever so slightly toward the inner solar system. NASA's public statement was brief. We have observed a non-gravitational acceleration. The cause is unknown, but behind closed doors, analysts were alarmed. because the same sensors that detected that movement also picked up a faint pulse of infrared light emanating directly from the core, repeating every 11.2 seconds, precisely synchronized with each trajectory shift. Coincidence? Unlikely, because in astrophysics, precision like that never happens by accident. Whatever 3I Atlas is, it's not behaving like a comet. It's behaving like something alive. When the James Webb Space Telescope released its second set of deep field images of 3I Atlas, what appeared on screen left even veteran astronomers speechless. At first glance, the images looked ordinary, a faint blur surrounded by a hazy tail. But when scientists enhanced the raw data, they found something that no natural object should ever display. Hidden within the luminous tail were repeating geometric structures, sharp, angular formations intersecting at perfect right angles. They looked less like dust trails and more like scaffolding, as if the object was built rather than formed. At NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, the team in charge of image calibration initially assumed an equipment malfunction, perhaps a data processing artifact, or cosmic rays interfering with the sensors. But then, the same patterns appeared in independent observations from the European Southern Observatory and the Gemini Observatory in Chile. 3 separate instruments, 3 identical results. The data was verified, and that's when the panic began. In internal memos later leaked to journalists, researchers described the images as showing anomalous linear coherence inconsistent with natural phenomena. In simpler terms, something artificial. What disturbed scientists even more was that the structures moved. Across consecutive frames, the geometric pattern seemed to shift positions, as though rotating or unfolding in space. One astrophysicist described it as a mechanical lattice responding to an external signal. Another quietly compared it to solar panels opening in orbit. Then came the most shocking discovery of all. Buried deep in the composite data, analysts detected pulses of infrared light emanating from within the object's core, timed precisely every 11.2 seconds. Not random flares, not thermal radiation, but a steady, repeating pulse. When compared across multiple telescopes, the timing was perfect, to the millisecond. Natural phenomena don't keep time like that, machines do. At that point, the data was no longer considered a scientific curiosity. It became a national security matter. The Department of Defense reportedly contacted NASA within 24 hours of the discovery, demanding restricted access to all raw image files. By the next morning, the public version of the Webb database had quietly removed the latest 3 iAtlas entries, but not before a few researchers downloaded copies. And what they found next made headlines around the world. The pulse of infrared light wasn't just steady. It was structured. By isolating the light sequence into numerical data, astrophysicists noticed that the intervals between pulses followed a pattern, a prime number sequence: 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, repeating over and over. Prime numbers don't occur naturally in astrophysical emissions. They are mathematical, deliberate, the kind of pattern an intelligent civilization might use to announce its presence. Publicly, NASA dismissed the claims as misinterpretation. Privately, it assembled an internal task force to study the phenomenon. Whistleblowers later revealed the name of the group, Project Siren, a team of astrophysicists, data engineers, and defense analysts tasked with determining whether the pulses were a form of communication. In the meantime, new images continued to arrive, and the geometry was becoming clearer. The tail of 3I Atlas now displayed a faint hexagonal symmetry, a shape that rotated slightly with each observation, aligning more closely toward the Sun and toward Earth. By late October, the object's behavior became even harder to explain. It had altered course again, this time with precise timing that coincided with one of its infrared pulses. It was as if the light itself was a control signal commanding movement. And just like that, what began as an astronomical anomaly had become something else entirely, a machine that moves on its own, a pattern that thinks in numbers, and a silence from NASA that grows louder with every pulse. As the analysis deepened, scientists turned their attention to the heart of 3I Atlas, the region that should contain its rocky nucleus. Every comet, no matter how strange, has one, a dense core of frozen dust and stone. But when NASA's James Webb Space Telescope focused its infrared sensors on the center of 3I Atlas, there was nothing, not darkness, not shadow, nothing. The core didn't emit or reflect light. It absorbed it. Every wavelength, from ultraviolet to infrared, vanished into the void, leaving behind a perfect black silhouette, a region so dark it broke the calibration of Webb's sensors. At first, engineers assumed it was a data gap, a missing frame, a transmission glitch. But when the European Space Agency ran independent scans, they found the same anomaly. The center of 3I Atlas wasn't a solid object at all. It was an absence, a pocket of space that swallowed everything around it. Then came something even stranger. Within that void, a rhythm appeared. Every 11.2 seconds, a faint pulse of light, the same frequency detected weeks earlier, flickered along the inner edge of the darkness. A perfect beat, like a mechanical heartbeat buried inside a hole in reality. Astronomers compared it to gravitational lensing when massive galaxies bend starlight. But 3I Atlas doesn't have enough mass to bend space. What it was doing shouldn't be possible. Some described it as a localized space-time fracture, a miniature well where geometry itself was folding inward. Others dared to suggest it was a transit chamber, an engineered pocket where space is compressed to allow faster-than-light movement. In simple terms, a propulsion system that doesn't move through space, but moves space itself. NASA has not confirmed that theory, but leaked reports from Caltech's analysis division use one chilling phrase: non-gravitational warping, consistent with directed manipulation. If true, that means 3I Atlas isn't drifting, it's navigating. And the pulse, that haunting rhythm repeating across the void, could be its control signal. For decades, humanity has searched for proof of intelligent technology beyond Earth. But what if it's been here longer than we realized? What if it's not just passing through, but testing the limits of our perception, watching how we react before deciding what comes next? The moment NASA realized what it had captured, everything changed. Within hours of the discovery of 3I Atlas's impossible core, data access across multiple observatories was restricted. The live feed from the James Webb Space Telescope, which had been public for months, suddenly went dark. Entries vanished from NASA's open archives, and researchers who had once spoken freely online began deleting posts, one after another. At first, the silence was blamed on data recalibration, but inside the agency, a different story was unfolding. Internal memos, later leaked to the press, referred to anomalous optical interference and restricted observation protocols. One memo from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory reportedly labeled 3I Atlas as a priority national security object. That classification had only been used a handful of times in NASA's history, usually for asteroid impact threats, never for something like this. It didn't take long for the secrecy to leak into public view. Independent astronomers noticed the gap in NASA's image logs and began comparing timestamps. The missing frames lined up perfectly with the period when Webb's instruments had been focused on 3I Atlas. Within days, Reddit threads, X posts, and TikTok videos exploded with speculation. Theories multiplied. Was NASA hiding proof of alien technology? Had something inside the object activated? Or was it, as some claimed, a cover-up to prevent public panic? News outlets jumped on the story, but none could get official confirmation. NASA's press office released a sterile 4-sentence statement. Recent imaging irregularities associated with 3I Atlas are under review. Preliminary analysis suggests instrumental artifacts. No unusual behavior has been confirmed, but for many, the tone of the statement only deepened the suspicion. Because around the same time, multiple defense agencies, including the U.S. Navy's Space Systems Command, began quietly requesting access to orbital tracking data. Anonymous insiders claim the Pentagon had formed a small task group to evaluate potential non-gravitational trajectories. In other words, movements that couldn't be explained by natural physics. Then came the leaks. A whistleblower, believed to be a subcontractor from Caltech's Infrared Processing Center, released a fragment of the restricted report. It described 3I Atlas as displaying behavior inconsistent with gravitational constraints and referenced localized distortions in background starlight. To those who understood the language, the meaning was clear. The object was bending space. Within days, social media was flooded with images, some real, others doctored, claiming to show 3I Atlas twisting the stars behind it. A viral post on X read, "NASA didn't discover 3I Atlas. 3I Atlas discovered NASA." Prominent figures chimed in. Elon Musk posted a cryptic message. "If space folds, do we even move?" It was reposted millions of times in hours. Meanwhile, conspiracy channels on YouTube began drawing parallels to the Oumuamua controversy years earlier, when Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb had suggested that the first interstellar object might have been a probe. Back then, the idea had been laughed off. Now people weren't laughing. And then, something even stranger happened. During one of Webb's final observations before the blackout, telemetry logs showed a 2.4-second data gap. Not a transmission error, not corruption, a literal void, as if time itself had been cut out of the recording. When the data stream resumed, 3I Atlas appeared slightly larger, its coma brighter, its tail thicker, and the geometry within its structure seemed to have changed. Segments that had once been random streaks now formed a pattern, a repeating sequence of angles that mirrored the prime number pulse detected weeks earlier. The internet went into meltdown. Was the object expanding? Was it building something? Or worse, was it communicating? NASA, under growing pressure, held a brief televised conference. Administrator statements were vague, filled with technical jargon about non-linear scattering phenomena. But body language told a different story. Tension, restraint, fear. One reporter asked directly if the agency believed 3I Atlas could be artificial. The spokesperson paused for several seconds before replying. "We have no evidence to support that conclusion at this time." It was the "at this time" that caught everyone's attention. By nightfall, newsrooms were calling it the silence of NASA, a coordinated effort to bury the truth. Document leaks continued. A European researcher claimed the European Space Agency had detected the same anomalies, and whispers spread that multiple ground-based telescopes were now forbidden to share tracking coordinates. Across the world, the story divided scientists, governments, and citizens alike. Some clung to rationality, insisting the anomalies were natural, just misunderstood. Others believed humanity had just photographed its first true alien machine. Either way, one truth was undeniable. Something about 3I Atlas had forced the world's most powerful institutions to go silent, and silence, in the language of discovery, is often the loudest signal of all. By the time NASA issued its last public statement, it was already too late. 3I Atlas had slipped behind the sun, the one moment when even the most powerful telescopes on Earth and in orbit were blind. For weeks, the object was hidden from every eye, buried within the solar glare, and in that silence, something changed. When it finally re-emerged on the far side, the data didn't match. Its apparent size had increased by nearly 40%, its tail thicker, and its internal glow brighter. NASA called it a coma expansion event, but several astronomers privately confirmed that this wasn't a cloud of dust. The mass readings had increased too. That meant the object itself was growing. Then came the images. The final frames captured by the James Webb Space Telescope before the data blackout showed 3I Atlas splitting, not chaotic fragmentation like a dying comet. This was something else, precise, symmetrical, deliberate, segments separated in perfect formation, drifting apart with mathematical precision, like panels unfolding from a machine. When the object returned into view, 3 smaller bodies were now trailing behind it in perfect synchronization, each moving as though tethered to an invisible rhythm. NASA dismissed them as debris fragments, but others saw formation flying, an orchestrated movement, and the implications were staggering. For years, scientists debated whether interstellar visitors like Oumuamua could be artificial. Now 3I Atlas was giving us evidence in real time, a structure that bends light, pulses prime numbers, and moves with intent. And yet, the official explanation remained unchanged: natural cometary activity. Behind the scenes, however, a darker truth was unfolding. Leaked communications between NASA, Caltech, and the U.S. Navy described proximity risk assessments and potential energy anomalies. Why would the Navy need to model a distant comet unless someone believed it wasn't distant for long? Online, panic began to spread. Some claimed that during conjunction, 3I Atlas had slowed down, its trajectory subtly adjusting toward Earth's orbital plane. Others pointed to new readings from the Vera Rubin Observatory, showing faint distortions, as though something massive were bending the light ahead of it. A gravitational wake, a shadow moving before the object itself. NASA stayed silent. The press was instructed to focus on upcoming lunar missions, and public questions about 3I Atlas were redirected to space weather inquiries. But a final leak shattered the illusion. According to one classified brief, 3I Atlas's pulses had shifted, no longer every 11.2 seconds, but now transmitting in bursts of 5. 5 pulses, then silence. 5 again. The sequence, when converted into binary, spelled a single repeating pattern: EARTH. Coincidence? Perhaps. But it was enough to ignite the largest wave of speculation since the dawn of the space age. And that's where we are now, standing on the edge of something we don't yet understand. An object from another system, defying every rule of nature, growing stronger, and, if the patterns are real, now focused on us. If even part of this is true, then we are witnessing not just a discovery, but a message. A message written in light, geometry, and silence. One that may not have been meant for us to see, but one we cannot unsee now that we have. The only question left is simple. What happens when 3I Atlas stops observing and starts to act? If you want to know what NASA finds next, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the story isn't over. In fact, it may have just begun.